they went to the queen to tell her her subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of the Peasant's Perspective.
Oh, Pony Boy.
Pony Boy's already in the chats. He made it. Oh, good morning, peasants. Good morning, peasants. Good morning, John Takis. Pony Boy, good. It was good. Oh, I know how you feel. I feel like every time I put out an X post that gets like major traction, 10,000 plus views, always a spelling error. Yeah. Always. It's impossible not to get one. And the worst thing is they let you edit for like an hour, assuming no one comments. Right. So the moment you get a comment, you're like, oh, it's going to go viral. Oh, crap. As you it. Anyways, there's a movie on Netflix, I think, and I haven't had a Netflix subscription for a long time, but it's called The Boys. It might be on Prime. I don't even know where it's at. It's called The Boys. And it's one of these like it's modern day X-Men. Basically, these people are given get mutant powers from a pharmaceutical drug, but then it also gets in them to where they can pass it on to their posterity. So there's a whole bunch of like genomics and stuff like that going on. Okay. Anyways, in the show, these hybrids, right? These humans with mutant capabilities are getting. In fact, this might even be an X-Men episode, to be completely honest.
It sounds like a Pfizer commercial.
It's so overlapped. It might be an X-Men. It might be one of the X-Men shows. I can't remember now. But anyways, one of these X-Men has capacities to like make people's brains explode, but otherwise looks completely normal and is in politics. So at one point, the government creates the, regulation of mutants department or whatever. And walking in as the first ever head of the department is a mutant that's a bad mutant. Right? And it's like, no! Well, that's pretty much how I view reality at this point, right? Yeah. There's certain things that once you see them, you can't unsee them. Like, for example, imagine you were tasked with being in charge of the Drug Enforcement Agency. Someone who's really tasked by the American people through the office of the presidency, nominated and confirmed by the Senate. Right?
Lay down the law. Yeah,
to lay down the law, to stop drug trafficking. What if they were actually drug trafficking themselves?
So Fox News alert, a high-ranking Obama DEA official was just indicted for trying to help the cartel.
Paul Campo conspired, allegedly, to launder up to $12 million in drug trafficking proceeds. Campo and an associate by the name of Robert Sensi are accused in the scheme of converting cash into cryptocurrency to buy 220 kilos of coke, worth about $5 million on the street, and then attempting to launder even more money, almost $750,000 from other drug sales for the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. These two gentlemen have been charged with narco-terrorism conspiracy to distribute narcotics, and as you can well imagine, also with money laundering conspiracy. Campo has pleaded not guilty, and he is in custody tonight. There's a good chance, Jesse, he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Told you so. You know how many guys I know in prison that are like, I know, I was buying drugs from the feds. I know they were dealing.
He's the dude.
Dude, that's the guy. That's the guy I talked to. That is hilarious. It's not hilarious. It's tragic. Right. Clearly, that guy does belong in jail. He doesn't need rehab. Okay. He needs some serious help.
He made a mistake.
A high-ranking official in the DEA in the Obama administration was working directly with the cartels to not only launder money, but to actually purchase and distribute drugs. Wow. Is anyone surprised?
No,
not really. So this is Scott Bessent. Speaking of, no, this is Scott Bessent, who, again, Trump has put together a really dynamite cabinet, and if for anything else, it's because they've been actually vetted. You know, you let the internet have at these people left and right, and pretty much any skeleton these people have ever had in their closet was brought out during their Senate confirmations. So it feels to me like this cabinet is a little bit bulletproof. Cabinets in the past may have gotten a pass. I don't know. Just based on, you know, what we've seen. It was so interesting. I was in one of our 1776 live.us classes on Saturday, and the presenter was saying that Trump's been in office his whole adult life. And then someone else got on, because members of the community are 26, 27. They're like, yeah, I remember, you know, vaguely, like I have a memory of Barack Obama being in office. I'm like, dude, could you imagine your whole adult life basically being the Trump show and all the drama that's happened? It's crazy. I kind of like became very cognizant of politics really early in life, but my adult life post graduation has been Obama plus, right? So I came into a world that was transitioning. But it was still very much the old world where, you know, merit mattered. And if you worked hard, you could succeed. That was like really what we were taught. And I found my niche, but a lot of my peers did not. A lot of my peers got caught in that. Yeah, I went and got my good job. And then it's just been like, there's been no white collar security. There's been no blue collar security either. You're not upwardly mobile in the trades because you're constantly injecting new immigrants and things like that into the work pool. So anyways, lots of interesting stuff. Scott Bessent went on the news shows this weekend. You know, every weekend there's like the Face the Nation and all these weekend shows, right? Scott Bessent went on Face the Nation, and he was being asked about this Somali scandal up in Minnesota. This thing is breaking open. Like, it starts out as just kind of, okay, you know, a couple $100 million. Okay, now we're up to $1 billion, then we're up to $2 billion. Now we're up to $8 billion. Now they're like, it might be like $24 billion that the Somalis have essentially defrauded the taxpayers of Minnesota and the federal government from. It's stunning. So Scott Bessent was talking about this, and probably one of the most iconic lines, something we should have etched into a plaque on the wall, is how he finishes up this interview.
The Biden administration created the worst inflation in 50 years, and maybe for working Americans, the worst inflation of all time. And we have pulled that number down. That Strategas research does something called the Common Man Index. Under Biden, the accumulated inflation number, as measured by CPI, was about 20%. Their index showed 35. This year, for the first time, the Common Man Index is below the inflation index because the basket of goods for working Americans, food, gasoline, rent, is coming down. So I wrote an essay March 12th, 2024, and it talked about the 3 I's: immigration, interest rates, and inflation. Mass unfettered immigration, depressed wages, caused housing prices to go up. President has closed the border. That is fixed. Interest rates have come down. The bond market just had the best year since 2020. And now we are working on inflation, and I expect inflation to roll down strongly next year. The Biden administration created
so
the
he's
worst.
Making a pretty big crack at this. That wasn't the clip I wanted to play. It wasn't.
I was going to ask you what the plaque's supposed to say.
Here's the one. This is the one that's going to have the plaque at the end.
Right.
And again, it's continuing along the same line. So he's talking about, you know, we were handed over the worst inflation, which is going to become really relevant here in just a second. But this is specifically with the Somali thing.
The president told you, though, this week to look into Somalis who, quote, ripped off that state for billions of dollars. He said they contribute nothing. What exactly are you investigating?
Well, Margaret, to be clear, the initial fraud that was discovered by the IRS, for which I'm the acting commissioner, is discovered by IRS Criminal Investigations Unit. This was not an endogenous thing that the state of Minnesota decided we had to go in and clean up the mess for them. And this is part of the continued cleanup. A lot of money has been transferred from the individuals who committed this fraud, including those who donated to the governor, donated to Representative Omar, and donated to A.G. Ellison. But they've been transferred to something called MBSs. And those are
mortgage-backed security. What do you mean?
Sorry?
Transferred to what?
These are money the Bureau services, and they are wire transfer organizations that are outside the regulated banking system. And that money has gone overseas. And we are tracking that both to the Middle East and to Somalia to see what the uses of that have been.
Okay, but you have no evidence of that money being used to fuel terrorism at this point, which is what some conservative writers are alleging.
That's why it's an investigation. We started it last week. We'll see where it goes. But I can tell you that, it's terrible. The Representative Omar tried to downplay it, said, it was very, it was very tough to know how this money should be used. Yeah. She was gaslighting the American people.
Well, we'll talk to her.
Yeah. But, when you come to this country, you got to learn which side of the road to drive on. You got to learn to stop at stop signs, and you got to learn not to defraud the American people.
That's the line right there. When you come to this country, you got to learn to drive on the right side of the road, stop at the side signs, and not to defraud the American people.
I like it. I like it.
They should be etched in stone above the United States Treasury and the Department of Immigration. Right as you come across the border on Ellis Island, give me you're hungry, you're poor, you're weak, that will drive on the right side of the road, stop the stop signs, and not defraud the American government. This is such a big deal that even Secretary Mehmet Oz, had to step in and do one of these official health and human service videos talking to the state of Minnesota, giving them a pretty broad, plain, not just broad, but a plain ultimatum.
It's true. A Somali fraud ring in Minnesota stole over $1 billion from Medicaid. How did this happen? Well, Medicaid programs are run by the states, which in Minnesota means the Tim Walz administration. Governor Walz and the state's other Democrats rely on Somali votes to get elected. So they decided to look the other way because they were afraid of, quote unquote, political backlash. Don't take my word for it. That's what a Somali American fraud investigator told the New York Times. When these scammers realized that nobody was guarding the cash register, they went gangbusters. One program designed to provide housing stabilization assistance to patients ballooned to $104 million. When 4 years ago, it was projected to cost only $2.6 million. Some of these taxpayer funds may have even ended up in the hands of a Somalian terrorist group. Scary stuff. When CMS became aware of the housing program situation, Minnesota insisted it could clean up its own mess. A few months ago, it admitted it could not. So we stepped in to shut down the fraud-infested housing initiative. Today, we're taking action on more than a dozen other programs, which I've outlined in the post below. Our message to Walz is clear. Either fix this in 60 days or start looking under your couch for spare change because we are done footing the bill for your incompetence. This administration will never stop fighting to protect the vulnerable Americans who rely on these programs and the taxpayers who fund them. We're going to crush waste, fraud, and abuse.
I'll tell you what, if right now, if we could take a snapshot at all the things the administration is doing, right now in this moment, all the things it's done, settling wars, overseas deals, trade deals, et cetera, if you could take a snapshot right now and go back in time and it was March 1st, we would have the happiest MAGA contingent on the planet. Right. They've gotten to so many things. Like you're talking about cutting off Medicaid dollars to the state of Minnesota until they fix the fraud. Like it's not just, hey, on the margins. It's like, no, we'll just cut it off completely. Like this is where we wanted to be in March. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of the frustration from the MAGA and the
here in Washington, too.
Yeah, a lot, and Maine's got their own issues. So this thing's going to metastasize for sure. They're definitely taking a look at all these programs, these social safety net programs that were designed to ensure that everybody could achieve the American dream. And they're going, whoa. It's actually holding us back because the people who are assertive and go out and try to succeed in the world, they get punished. Their success gets punished. You start getting taxed really early on as a small business owner. Right. And where does that money go? Oh, these $1 billion homeless programs. Then why are there homeless tents out in front of my bodega? You know what I mean? Like this doesn't make any sense to me.
Yes. We just had the biggest tax increase in Washington state history. And now the governor's already saying they're going to be a shortfall and our quality of life is in the toilet. What is going on?
We've had the highest rate of home appreciation in the country. Did you see that chart?
No, but I believe it.
It was like 800%. Increase in housing over whatever period of time. But, the whole left coast was pretty high, but we were higher than California. We were higher than anywhere else in the country, 800%.
Well, people were leaving California, That just puts pressure on the markets.
We also have really high-paying corporate jobs here. Amazon, Microsoft, Boeing, Costco, Starbucks. I mean, there's a lot, and you could
for a little while till those guys all leave.
Yeah, but a lot of those guys, that's what drove the housing prices high. They were high quality jobs. Unfortunately, half of them went to H-1B visa holders. Hearkening back to an older time, right? Like I look at this, I'm going to play this little video here. This is 1998, and it's an AI generated video, but it's talking about the cost of living in 1998. And this is what so many boomers, and I hate to say this, but this was like the pinnacle of the boomers generation. They've matured in their jobs. They've just hit like stasis. You've got your home, you're built, your family's established, it's starting to mature, kids are getting into high school. This harkens back to that moment in time, right? This is the moment that boomers want to return to. And this is what a lot of the younger generation were pitched, and the reality has not.
Yeah. Before you play this, I'll just say that I grew up, I was 12 when Reaganomics were coming into style, and I was working on my citizenship and the community merit badge when Ronald Reagan was president.
Yeah. So this right here, this
trickle down economics,
this 1998 snapshot for many people is like the pinnacle of Americana. Right. We've entered the computer age. The information age is around there. People still read books. Our public education is kind of at its pinnacle. We haven't gone to war in the Middle East. You can still get right onto an airplane without taking off your shoes.
The internet's still pretty new.
Yeah. It's all about, for kids, it's just cheat codes. Like pornography hasn't become a thing yet. This is 1998.
Dude, it's 1998, and a good house costs about $125,000. A lot of people can actually afford their own place. A new family car costs less than $20,000, and most families can easily swing a new car. Gas is about $1.03 a gallon. We drive to go on vacation or weekend trips all the time without even worrying about the price of gas. A loaf of bread costs about 85 cents, which is super cheap for every family. Rent for an apartment is about $650 a month. We can find our own place and not have to share with anyone else. A Big Mac meal is about $3.99. Lunch for less than $5. Now that's some seriously cheap fast food. A new CD costs about $14. We love going to the record store to buy albums because it's like a cool collection to show off. Grocery bills are about $40 a week. We go to the store, get what we need for the week, and still have some cash left over for snacks. Dude, are you going to stay in 1998 or face the reality of 2025?
Dude, what is the reality?
1998.
Right. That I remember one time having a conversation with my grandma over the dinner table, and I was struggling to buy housing. I was like 25, and I was actually making good money too, like really good money, but I didn't qualify for a house because I was making money by flipping houses and I didn't have a job. Right. Yeah. She's like, well, back when Dad and I bought our first house, it was a real stretch too. And our house was $15,000. That was really expensive then. Well, how much did Grandpa make at the mill? Well, he made about $45,000 a year. I'm like, what? You made more than your house cost? I was like, that actually came out of her mouth. I'm like, there's not like a city in the entire country where you can get away.
That can't be right. It
was right. I'm telling you, it was a stretch for them. Wow. Right. And then, they bought a car. It was $5,000. They paid cash. It was such a stretch. They had to save up for it because, financing.
Are you sure he wasn't making $4,500?
No, it was like 40. He was an electrician at the mill. Okay. Now, of course, this whole industry got devastated just a decade after she told us, was telling me the story about it. And I think they might have bought their house in the 50s or something like that. Either way, he made really good money for what he was doing. Right. And he was a post-Korea War vet, had made his way from Arkansas to the Oregon coast, and there was a boom going on.
Sounds like he was living the real American dream.
He was living a real American dream. In his journals, he went to go visit the Northwest and saw the Coos Bay Bridge and thought it was a modern marvel of architecture. It was like, I want to live here. And he did. He bought a house just up the road from the bridge. So he drove over the bridge every day to work. Wow. Okay, so that's the 1998 reality. What's the 2025 reality, Ron? This is going to.
Well, I can tell you, I really wish that we go back to 98.
Yeah, we all wish we could, and maybe we're taking steps that direction, honestly. But here's the reality today.
Here's how I only pay $400 a month for rent in Los Angeles. Klarna has just rolled out apartment financing. So instead of my rent being $1,600 a month for 1 year, it's going to be $400 a month for 4 years, all with 0% APR. You might be thinking, Chase, this isn't smart. It's called investing in yourself, because I know in 4 years' time I will have a bigger portfolio and more money in my account. This system will allow me to enjoy my 20s more. Have fun now, worry later.
Do you understand what that was all about?
What?
So rent in his little 1-bedroom LA studio room there, as you saw, is $1,600 a month. He can't afford that. So what does he do? He finances his rental. Instead of paying $1,600 a month for 1 year, he's going to pay $400 a month for 4 years. But he's going to be out of his lease contract in 1 year. So he's going to continue paying this year's month, 4 year, the delta on this year's rent over the next 4 years.
Oh my gosh. Then what's he going to do next year? The same thing and rack up another 4 years?
Hopefully he's investing in himself.
Oh, okay.
That is, when I talk to people that are younger than me, these are the kind of choices they're making. Do you see why a 50-year mortgage is appealing to some of these guys? Because to them, it's about the monthly payment. All right, well, if I make more money in a year, then I can make, I'll have invested this year in myself.
Sure.
Now, for us adults, we're like, dude, a year goes by fast, and 4 years, you're going to be paying for that first month's rent for 4 years. Are you kidding me?
I'm at the age now where it's like, hey, 30 years goes by pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, Zero Hedge has great articles. They've got an article by Tyler Durden called "Is a Backdoor Gold Standard Coming?" And this article just basically goes through, it's like, listen, everybody's trying to get off the fiat system. In 1873, there was the Coinage Act, which recognized gold as money. And we've kind of just moved away from that ever since then. And anyways, it's going through here. It's talking about just gold has absolutely increased in value. And with the new Basel III rules, which this is all like high finance stuff, but they took effect in 2022 and they were fully implemented this year. And they explicitly reclassified allocated gold as a zero risk weight asset, and silver is closely behind it. So we are actually, it looks like, the masters of the universe are moving central banks and banks back into like a sound money system. They're trying to back the fiat currency with something, tangible in the bank. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Is it almost time?
It's nothing lighting up yet.
Okay. So one of the other things too, talking about banks and banks trying to get more solid, is with all of the government weaponization, obviously I got debanked. I say that all the time. I cannot, sometimes I was talking to Ivan Rakin. Mm-hmm. He's a popular guy on X, runs around Washington, D.C., often ends up sitting behind people that are speaking in congressional hearings. So you'll see him on like C-SPAN all the time, sitting in the back.
He's not one of these like DTF hat guys, is he?
No, I don't think so.
Donald Trump forever?
No, he's a former intelligence officer, lieutenant colonel or colonel.
So he's there for real.
Yeah, he's there for real.
Okay.
He's trying to influence policy and things like that. So anyways, I was talking to him on the phone and I was saying, I got arrested and then I got audited and then debanked. And then he's like, man, it makes my blood boil just hearing you talk about that so nonchalantly. And I'm like, I've been wanting to go back to DC for January 6th. And it's funny. I'm like, no big deal, right? It's all over. I'm pardoned. I just want to go back and see it. And everybody's like, don't go. Oh my God. And I'm like, really? Still? Well, this is Jamie Dimon talking about the issue specifically of debanking. He's got an interesting way of take on this. He's like, look, it's the government's fault. Don't blame the banks. We all have to grow up here. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Did you send over the bank records of Devin Nunes or Trump supporters to the special counsel when he wanted that information?
People have to grow up here, okay, and stop making up things and stuff like that. So, and I can't talk about an individual account. We do not debank people with religious or political affiliations. We do debank them. They have religious and political affiliation. We debank people who are Democrats. We debank people who are Republicans. We've debanked different religious folks. Never was that for that reason. And that's number one. Number two is I don't like debanking people. We live under very strict rules and regulations and requirements. And to protect the country, and we have to report things to the government. We're required to report things to the government. I can't even tell you when we do it because I'm not going to tell you that either. And so I want to change these rules. I actually applaud the Trump administration who's trying to say the debanking's bad and we should change the rules. Well, damn it, I've been asking to change the rules now for 15 years. So change the rules. And, and that's why a lot of this stuff takes place. It is really customer unfriendly. And, we're debanking people because of suspected things or negative media or all these various things. So, and the last thing, which is really important, we don't give information to the government just because they ask. We're subpoenaed. We are required by court to give it to the government. And I've been following subpoenas with this administration, the last administration, the administration before that, and the one before that. And I don't agree with a lot of, the government does a lot of things that get angry at banks. So let's just take a deep breath and fix the problems as opposed to blame someone who's put in that position. So, and we've been quite clear about this. We've given recommendations to the government how they can fix it, how we can change the rules and regulations to dramatically reduce reporting and debanking and things like that. And I would tell the government, if we see something that might possibly be bad, we'll report it to you and you decide. Why do we have to decide? Right. That's the position we're put in.
Say, I mean, as some...
So what he just admitted there is the big banks are just extensions of the government. The government's delegating to them decisions. Yeah. Well, we can't violate their rights, but you can.
We don't even like doing it.
We don't like doing it. Yeah. He's admitting, first of all, government's weaponized. I don't agree with a lot of these subpoenas. We debank people. Yeah, they've got religious and political affiliations. Beside the point, we debank them for all kinds of reasons. Suspicion, bad media, bad negative. That sounds like social credit score assessments. You know what I mean? Like some bad media, you're going to debank someone? Wow, that's interesting. So you'll do all the banking for Jeffrey Epstein, but you won't bank for a January 6th defendant.
Well, he's got a lot of money.
Yeah. Now, obviously, when it came to Donald Trump being debanked from them, that was like a huge deal. Are we ready now?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
It's coffee time.
1775 style. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold, dark roast that hits hard, the smooth, medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus. No crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin-free and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to strip your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions. And a black 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble. Wonder if it's actually worth it? Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does.
Nice. How many breaths did you take in that? Two breaths. That's awesome. Yes, gotta have your coffee to get going in the morning. Okay, so let's jump over to this J6 pipe bomb situation.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta admit, I immersed myself in this case this weekend, and I am more disgusted than I have ever been.
Okay.
I can't even.
I'm actually glad that that's how you feel because I do too.
I can't even begin to tell you how. I'll tell you what.
They're straight up lying to us, right?
Dude, I have no other conclusion to come to. All right. There's these moments in time where you see something and it's like you have a chance to get away. There's this moment. You see the corruption, you see the rot, you see the branch is about to fall over the spot you're going to walk. And it's like you have a choice. Do I stop? Do I turn around and run? Do I engage with this? This is one of those moments this weekend for me where I'm like, oh, I thought they were changing. I thought they were reforming. I thought this was going to be over for us. And I say us plurally, like January 6ers. And I'm like, oh, no, we're still in the middle of it.
Okay, I saw a clip this morning. Well, it was on the can. But I have to, this is the right moment to bring it up. So a guy was talking about the book from Alexander Solzhenitsyn. I can't.
The Archipelago Gulag.
Yes. And he's talking about one of the main points of the whole book. And the main point is that we know the government's lying to us. They know that we know that they're lying to us. And then they still lie to us. And then we don't do anything about it. And that's the point. They're able to lie to our faces and get away with it. And that's power over people.
That's raw power.
That's raw power.
This is also raw power here. This is the first time I've ever seen a good quality aerial shot of January 6th. Okay, so this is early in the morning. This is probably like 6:30, 6:45.
Okay, before I show this, remember, can you tell us how many people they said showed up?
There's been estimates. I've seen low estimates at 500,000. I've seen high estimates at 2+ billion.
Okay.
Okay. But this was probably 6:30 in the morning. No speaking was going to start till like 10:30 or 11. Okay. This is just people filling in, right? This is this drone, whoever sent this up, is right next to the Washington Memorial here, the monument. So there's the Capitol. But I mean, this is a large area here. This is more than a football field plus, right? Just packed. And you can see it's just starting to go. I ended up watching it right up here by this, right in front of this Megatron thing. And there's the White House all the way up there, and that filled in all the way too. So people are just converging into this place, right? So I wanted to show that video there because it was a generically peaceful morning, lots of spontaneous singing of the national anthem and stuff like that. And obviously this whole thing got derailed when these 2 pipe bombs were discovered, which caused this security incident, which is precisely the quote from my trial from the Capitol, from the chief of police, right? Came in and said there was a security incident, caused us to divert agents, and that allowed the crowd to basically impose itself on the Capitol building. And along you've got Ray Epps and a bunch of stuff that's happening. Well, they finally found the pipe bomber last week. Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old autistic boy, living in his parents' basement 50 miles from the Capitol, happened to be the one. And they had the data and the information all along, but they chose to ignore it. Well, he gets arrested. We're all kind of like, that's interesting. There is thing after thing after thing. They're telling us that this is the guy who's walking in the gray sweats at night. There's been no gait analysis. When you run the picture, hit full-size body picture of him, full-size body picture of the gate, the bomber.
It's
in the
not
night,
believable.
It's not believable. The proportions are off. You can't fake it. It's just AI says 0% possibility of a match. But then you see there's one image of Carrie, the Capitol Hill police officer. She's walking and she's got that slight limp, and there's an overlay with the biop. I mean, it's precise. It's precise. Size, the angle of the body, the arm, everything, just absolutely perfect.
Yeah, even if you wanted to argue about it, okay, nice try.
Yes. Okay, so let's go over a couple things.
Okay.
First and foremost, this young man has been arrested. He's in detention. He's unlikely to make bond or anything like that. This is Julie Kelly on the War Room. I believe that I'm the first person to make this news broadly known. The prosecutor in this case is named Jocelyn Ballantyne. Okay. Jocelyn Ballantyne was the prosecutor on the Proud Boys cases. So I X'd this out to Enrique Ontario, and he lit up. I informed him, and he turned around and called everybody he knew about it. He did a couple of interviews over the weekend. This is weird stuff. So this is what Julie Kelly has to say about it.
These courts about the trials of the J6 people and President Trump and Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon and a host of Tom Barrack and a host of others. So you know this better than anybody because you were essentially an eyewitness to this. Now, you have also been, since Darren Beatty's in the government and Raheem's doing other stuff right now, you're really one of our lead watchdogs, if not the lead, on this whole thing with the pipe bomb. And you informed me last night, and I can't believe it because my head's still blown up from when you told me, that the FBI agents and the lead attorney, the prosecutor, on this case with the pipe bomber, is one of the worst prosecutors, one of the worst demons that were out there prosecuting the J6 folks. How could that possibly? Julie, you must have gotten this one wrong. Your track record's 100%, but on this one, Julie Kelly must be wrong. This can't possibly be true, can it, ma'am?
As I tell my husband all the time, of course I'm right. Yes, I'm right. I'm never wrong. Never. Unfortunately, I wish that this was not true. And I guess my only thought here is that the new leadership at the DOJ and FBI are not aware of who this individual is, Jocelyn Ballantyne, who was.
So they're just not aware of who their lead prosecutor in this huge J6 case is, just who she is. So just some random line attorney picked up this, case of total importance.
The lead prosecutor. She led the team of government lawyers, DOJ lawyers, who went after the Proud Boys. I covered that trial, right? I covered that in 2023. She is among the worst of the worst. When I was asked to help submit names of J6 prosecutors who should be fired, she was towards the top of the list. So I have no idea.
Julie, hang on. She treated the Proud Boys got a totally fair trial. She didn't pull any fast ones. She didn't entrap anybody. She was
okay. So I went and listened to Enrique Ontario talk about this prosecutor. And before he got sentenced, they passed a piece of, literally, this woman sat in a room, passed a piece of paper over him with a narrative written on it. Trump encouraged you through a third party intermediary to storm the Capitol and take over the government. Right. And he's like, I don't agree with that. 22-year sentence. Okay. They were basically saying you won't go to jail. We need this narrative. That prosecutor slipped that paper over to him. Okay. It was that prosecutor that was spying on the phone calls. They sent over the discovery with all the information. And as they were going through it, someone's like, hey, there's a tab here that says hidden. They clicked on hidden, and it was all the emails and text messages that they excluded from the discovery. And it was the collusion. And they were monitoring the attorney-client privilege phone calls, which should have been an automatic mistrial. And Judge Kelly was like, it's not relevant. What? The amount of things this prosecutor did is legion. We're going to talk about just a few of them as we continue.
Above board, was she not, ma'am? Why are you picking on her?
She was not. And I have a piece up that I posted last night when I disclosed this, that Jocelyn Valentine is the lead prosecutor on the Brian Cole Jr. Pipe bomb case. I covered her, and this was a huge scandal during the Proud Boys trial that, of course, no one was covering. But the defense team discovered this spreadsheet of FBI correspondence going back and forth where agents were talking about destroying evidence. They were talking about surveilling, spying on, eavesdropping on communications between Proud Boys, who are all in pretrial detention, federal prison, and their attorneys. They were accessing that communication and some other malfeasance. So the defense team found this spreadsheet, accidentally, of course, and they wanted to use this as evidence. They were at the time questioning an FBI agent, a government witness, and they were going to start presenting what they found in the spreadsheet. Judge Tim Kelly, who, by the way, is good friends with Jocelyn Valentine, they worked together in the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office. They worked on cases together. Judge Kelly abruptly cuts off the questioning as the defense attorney is about to present this evidence to this government witness. A day or two later, Jocelyn Valentine goes into court, claims that communication represents classified secrets, classified information, and should be withheld from the jury, which, of course, Judge Tim Kelly went along with. That's just one example of what she did leading this team of prosecutors against the Proud Boys, who were, of course, then convicted of seditious conspiracy. Then she went ahead and tried to throw the book at them and put some of them in prison for life, like Enrique Ontario, who ended up getting a 22-year prison sentence until, of course, they were all commuted by the president.
Hang on.
It's just horrible. So
we need a wall of shame for these people.
So unfortunately, this is one of those topics that's so big, we can't really go into great detail. You've got to go and get the source material. So you, the listeners here who kind of rely on this show to get your information, you're just going to have to trust me. This is bad news bears. There's nothing good about this. She should have been top of the list of people to be fired. And when I go through the list of cases she's been involved in, you're going to go, OMG. So first of all, this is coming from Tony Segura. He's an online sleuth. He reports a lot of stuff. The Justice Department is paying attention. Why is Ballantyne still in the justice, let alone working the Brian Cole Jr. pipe bomber case and the Ramallah Lakalawal case, the Afghan national accused of shooting 2 West Virginia National Guard members? So she's not only covering the Guard case, but she's also now covering the pipe bomb case. FYI, these are Coles Jr.'s numbers that will be invaluable in a successful prosecution. So he's got the numbers here. There's an X for the last numbers, not fully doxing them. And what they did is they did open source commercial information. I want the cell phone pings. You can just go buy this information.
Okay.
Right. Private investigators and stuff like this. This is how they figure out where your cheating spouse has been. They just go, bing, where's he been? Lastly, why is Ballantyne meeting privately away from D.C.? With Bill Barr, Representative Eric Swalwell, Representative Attic Swift, and former White House counsel Don McGahn.
Adam Schiff.
So then it comes over here. The J6 spy bomber in BLM Antifa, tracking devices linked to Brian Cole and using a BLM and Antifa overlay of known protest events. Many overlap, but we need a triple check all the data. There are multiple anomalies, including date time not matching the carrier logs. However, we confirm that one of these devices visited Fort Bragg in November 2020 and made over half a dozen visits to Camp Barrett in the FBI Academy Visitor Center in February, March of 2021. Fort Bragg is in North Carolina. North Carolina is where Tom Tillis is. Anytime something J6 comes up, because that's where they run their PSYOP division out of, all the North Carolina senators and representatives lose their mind. They're protecting Fort Bragg, clearly. Okay. So then he goes on to continue here. Maybe that was it on that one. Yeah, that's it for that post. So Jocelyn Bennett doing the DC shooter case. And doing the J6 pipe bomber case. Michael Flynn Jr., who's General Flynn's son.
How many judges are there? It just seems like such a weird
16.
coincidence.
There's like 16 on the DC circuit, judges. Okay. Prosecutors, hundreds. Doesn't, quite a few. So again, why you see the fact that we know these names and they're on infamous case after infamous case defies the odds.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, if these were like real, like Rudy Giuliani was the guy, like, of course he's at the top of all the cases for against the mob or whatever. So this is Michael Flynn Jr. Why is Jocelyn Ballantyne still employed at the Justice Department? For those who don't remember her ties to General Flynn, she is a career prosecutor with the U.S. Department of Justice, specializing in national security cases. She has been directly involved in high-profile prosecutions, most notably as one of the lead attorneys on the team that handled the criminal case against retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, President Trump's national security advisor. Their professional intersection stems from Flynn's 2017, quote, guilty plea to making false statements to the FBI about his conversations with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. A charge that arose from the FBI's Crossfire Hurricane investigation into potential ties with the Trump campaign in Russia, something we know that was all made up and completely fabricated. He details assignment of evidence handling Ballantyne joined the prosecution's team after special counsel Robert Mueller's office wrapped up in 2019. She was responsible for filing court documents, including responses to Flynn's motions and handling discovery materials. In 2020, the DOJ admitted to inadvertently altering key evidence. Oopsies. Handwritten notes from former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe and Peter Strzok by adding dates that suggested the notes were from specific meetings, including one potentially involving then Vice President Joe Biden. They were dating things to put the insert a narrative where there was none. Right. Ballantyne defended these documents in court filings, claiming they were unaltered based on consultations with the FBI agents' lawyers through correspondence. Later revealed those lawyers explicitly refused to vouch for their accuracy. But don't worry, she did it for them. In May 2020, under the Attorney General William Barr's review, the DOJ moved to dismiss Flynn's case, arguing the FBI's interview of Flynn lacked a legitimate investigative purpose and that the prosecution couldn't prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Notably, Ballantyne declined to sign the initial dismissal motion filed by acting attorney Timothy Shea, signaling internal DOJ disagreements. She did sign a revised version and subsequent appellate briefs defending the dismissal. Flynn's defense attorney, Sidney Powell, accused Ballantyne of providing redacted FBI interview reports, 302 forms that omitted crucial exculpatory details and submitting altered exhibits to the court. So, of course, the judge got involved. But then the question is, again, what is going on here? How can you have the same prosecutor that's in charge of mishandling everything about the Flynn case, including the prosecution of him that was, should have been legally flawed from its inception? And who's supposed to defend the defendant? I don't know. Anybody who takes an oath to the Constitution that's supposed to defend the rights of the individual. Okay. Even if you do work for the government, you're still supposed to defend the rights of the individual. Okay. Flub that one up. Then you turn around and she ends up prosecuting the Proud Boys, a completely deranged prosecution. And now she's on the pipe bomber case. She should have been fired after the Flynn case. She definitely should have been fired after the Proud Boys case. Now it's like, Okay, if you fire her now, is this a mea culpa, or are we just watching the continuation of the pipe bomb plan? Does that make sense? Like, what if they held this in reserve for this very moment? How do you know the actor that played along with all of this nonsense is still in charge of all of the case?
Well, it only took us 5 years to get here.
Yeah. So then here, right, Brianna Morello, D.C. federal prosecutor Jocelyn Ballantyne is prosecuting the January 6th pipe bomb case. Odd given her previous accusations of corruption. I've reached out to Judge Janine's office for comment regarding these allegations, including she also helped Jack Smith target President Trump in his January 6th political hit job, trying to give Proud Boy Enrique Tario no prison time if he lied about President Trump working with him to orchestrate J6 and using invalid attorney identification number in the Justice Department's shocking motion filed last week to dismiss the case against her former national security advisor, Michael Flynn. This is no different than Maureen Comey getting Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Diddy. And it's like, wow, all these cases that allegedly out on the internets and the conspiracy world are alleged to have ties to some of the most powerful people in the country. And what do we end up with? A bunch of failed charges in Diddy's case. And he's essentially a glorified domestic violent wife beater.
Sure.
And he got a sentence that was equivalent to my sentence for pushing gates.
Right.
I should have brought some baby oil with me to January 6th. This is crazy.
Costco amounts.
Good heavens. So this is Corinne Clifford. She's an independent journalist, and she's one of these journalists that does invaluable sourcing because she goes out and actually beats down the street. She's not just putting out propaganda and writing articles and scanning X. She's actually going out and meeting with these people. She went out and met with the family of Brian Cole. Okay. Brian Cole Jr. Okay. Now, I saw a post from Brianna Morello, who was in the courtroom when Brian Cole was arraigned. His family was in tears. They were in shock. They do not believe this is the pipe bomber. They absolutely believe he's innocent. This kind of set me off a little bit because I've been in the courtroom and you can't hide that emotion. Okay. So the fact that his family thinks he's innocent, keep in mind, he's been living in the basement for 5 years. You think at some point, he might have noticed the sneakers or noticed the pipe bomb material building up in the garage. Okay. But they don't feel that way at all.
So my name is Corinne Clifford. I'm a very serious independent journalist. If you know the work that I do, you'll understand where I'm at right now. I am in the neighborhood in Woodbridge, Virginia, where the alleged pipe bomber lives. I'm not doxing anything. It's a very cute neighborhood. And guess what? I just spoke to his mother, Delicia. And she's got a beautiful name, Delicia. And she's a beautiful woman, and she and I just cried together because she says that her son is innocent. I didn't tape record her. I didn't videotape her. I didn't set her up. I wrote a letter. I gave it to her. I gave it to the neighbors. If there's any information, everyone can call me and text me at 917-287-1314. But I want you all to know I live for Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. And if a black man is accused of something he didn't do, I will spend the rest of my life on this news story. This is very banned and censored, dangerous news now. I don't know all the facts because I was told by journalists like Steve Baker 2 months ago that the pipe bomber was a white all-American lesbian female who allegedly works for the CIA. But I just knocked on Delicia Cole, the mother of Brian Cole Jr. I just knocked on her door. She answered and we cried together. So I'm not exploiting the situation. I'm telling you that I'm on the scene here in Virginia, in Woodbridge, Virginia. I'm not going to dox the address. I'm not going to get into this more, but if you can see my face, I take this very seriously. And I want you to understand that my journalism is real. I am here with someone that helps me a lot. He's a beautiful black man named Ethan. I don't want to dox him, but I do have a bodyguard with me and I have other people. One of the neighbors in this neighborhood threatened to punch me. A white man threatened to punch me. Another white man took my information and said if he had information, he would tell me, but Brian Cole Jr. has a dog that he takes really good care of. He keeps to himself. He's around 30 years old. Allegedly, he's autistic. I asked his mother, is your son a Trump supporter? Are you a Trump supporter? Of course, she wouldn't answer me, which I take as that they're not Trump supporters. But what I told her is that this time last year, I had, 2,158 American patriots arrested. And if her son is innocent, I will go to the ends of the earth to help him. She doesn't know what jail or prison her son is in right now. And I gave her a little bit of help in that direction. But this is a really serious news story. I'm not trying to look glamorous. I'm not trying to say I'm cool. My name is Corinne.
Anyways, she, over the weekend, allegedly, we got a confession out of him. We met with him for 4 hours before arraignment. We got a confession out of him. Well, this Jocelyn Ballantyne has a record of getting false confessions, even from a general, General Flynn. Enrique Ontario, all the Proud Boys. In fact, some of them did flip, and they've since recanted and done affidavits saying that they, got time off their sentence. One of the things that Viva Frei, and going through this guy's history, because instantly, the internet knows everything, he's got accounts in some scandalous websites, and, pretty classic story. Hey, look, you can have these charges, or you can buy some end caps at Home Depot this week.
Right.
Okay. Mike Benz went through the whole time frame of this, and it's too uncanny. Right when they were doing the Election Integrity Project, the Podesta war game plan for keeping Trump out of office, that same weekend when they were meeting, this guy's buying stuff at a Home Depot nearby. Like, it just looks too much. Steve D'Antuono, who was the FBI station chief up in during the Michigan kidnapping plot, where they had informants basically creating that whole kidnapping situation, gets transferred to DC. Boom, this guy's buying stuff at Home Depot. It just feels like, and now you have the prosecutor who was the hammer that put the last nail in the coffin on all these entrapment cases, is the lead prosecutor on this case. But don't worry, they got a confession from the autistic boy 4 hours in. Oh, we're good to go now. We know who the mismatched gray sweatpant person is with this short-legged guy. That's the other thing. He's got like abnormally short legs, so it totally doesn't work. Okay, CNN, they're a little shocked. They're like, well, maybe this just isn't what people thought. Maybe we need to go deeper on our re-education. If MAGA is penetrating Black America,
believe what he says. No, maybe he put a bomb at the DNC because he believed the Democrats stole the election because Republicans and conspiracy theorists pushed that, and he put the bomb at the RNC because the vice president, who was about to be sworn in, was going to ride by that area. There are many scenarios that the prosecution will have to play out this case. But I'm gonna say the thing out loud that I think everyone is not saying and is actually surprised, and why I think Janine Pirro is actually saying it. I think the fact that this man is a Black man is surprising to people. I think people thought this was going to be a white man that did this. They were going to be able to say he was a part of the progressive left. And the fact that it's a Black man that is saying, I too was susceptible to conspiracy theorists that the president and conservative podcasts were pushing that this election was stolen, is a fact that they were not expecting. And now everyone is on their heels and they're trying to spin it. And I think that might be also why you think, let's not believe his actual story right now. Like he's trying to get both sides.
Possible.
I mean,
so
I didn't understand what she was saying. What was her argument?
She wants to have her cake and eat it too. That's what it boils down to.
Okay.
She's like, well, this is a Black man, and clearly he was believing the lies. This is just devastating. We thought it would be a white, they were hoping it would be a left liberal, but it turns out to be a Black. The allegation that he's a Trump supporter generally, supports the Trump, but he's got some anarchist views. The problem with the whole generic anarchist views is, like, Ron, you and I could be accused of anarchist views because we don't like building permits. You know what I mean? Like, and we think taxation is theft. The oldest tradition of Americans.
Yeah.
But we're.
I'll throw some tea in the harbor.
Yeah. So we're anarchists too, and we generally think the 2020 election was a little shady. Oh, great! Now that's us and like 65% of the rest of the country. Now this white guy on CNN, I don't even know who he is. He offers this is what I call the concede the premise or concede the whole case, but try to just soften the blow.
Put a different theory potentially on this. This guy's clearly warped in his head. He gets arrested. He realizes, well, the Trump DOJ is in charge. President Trump is the president of the United States. Maybe if I tell them it was because I thought the election was stolen, they'll take it easy on me. in his warped mind.
like
No, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, he put bombs on both sides.
But are you saying
so
that?
now all of a sudden he's a truth guy and everybody should believe what he says?
No, maybe he
put a different theory.
This is the dumbest game ever. Hey, let's guess what the autistic kid was thinking. These are the stupidest people ever.
The autistic kid is thinking, I want to go home to mommy and my chihuahua.
Yeah.
So Birkenbind says doesn't know where he's being held, the mother.
Yeah, the mom.
This is common practice. When you first get arraigned, they can't, if you're in transport, like likely he's going to end up in the DC gulag. Right, he's going to end up in protective custody there. So they're not going to release publicly where he's being held until he's in his final place. He's nice and safe, and nobody can get him. Right? They don't want you to be tipped off or watching for transports. So that is not unusual practice. It would happen with a DUI guy, and especially with a national security person.
Yeah,
because there's going to be people all over, even just to sow chaos, to try to stage a breakout or something like that.
Sure. It's just sad reality.
So the big question here is, and this is where sometimes as a peasant, I have a blind spot to this. I have a blind spot to this when it comes to January 6th. I just want to go back to DC for January 6th. And everybody in my life's like, dude, you're freaking crazy. Right? And it's like, well, why is it crazy? In my mind, I should be out of the woods, right? Like I'm back to the good old Boy Scout, you know, 5 kids, like homeschool dad. Like I'm back to that life. But the reality is our government is built to lie. How do you end up with a DEA agent with cops all around him, by the way, embezzling $12 million? How do you end up with Crossfire Hurricane? How do you end up with indicting General Flynn on a completely made up premise and a lie? How do you end up with the Whitmer kidnapping plot? Like, how do you end up with this stuff? Like some things you can see it kind of generating organically. Sometimes with Antifa, it feels really organic. Like, it's dissatisfaction with housing prices. Like it's basically when you reject the fact that you have to finance this month's rent over 4 years. You know, when you finally wake up to that, you'll the buses are going to be free one way or the other. You know, at that point, you just throw your hat in with all the anarchists when you're like, whatever we're doing, it's not working. I get it. Okay. I get that. But what about when the government really wants to go after something? How big of a lie will the government perpetrate and tell you and gaslight you? What you said about Solzhenitsyn, the archipelago gulag. We know they're lying. They know we're lying, but they lie to us anyway, and we do nothing about it. Okay. So let's go over a couple big lies. And if the government will do big lies, what would stop them from doing a small lie?
Of course, we attacked Iraq. I mean, even if we hadn't made up the whole notion of weapons of mass destruction, we would have made up something else to justify an attack on Iraq. I mean, look at Dick Cheney's efforts to connect Saddam Hussein with al-Qaeda. For those of us inside the CIA who knew a little bit about Iraq and about al-Qaeda and about Islam, I mean, everybody to a man would have said, there's literally nothing Muslim about Saddam Hussein. He famously made the Umrah, the minor pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia, and it was either 1987 or 1988. He went with the vice president of Iraq, Izzat Ibrahim. Izzat Ibrahim was a pious Sufi Muslim. Saddam didn't even know the prayers. And so when they went to the Kaaba to pray, Izzat Ibrahim knelt just behind Saddam to whisper the prayers to him so that he could say them out loud and make it look like he knew what the hell he was doing. So there was no connection between al-Qaeda and Saddam Hussein. Osama bin Laden hated Saddam Hussein at least as much as he hated the United States. There was no connection there, but Dick Cheney counted correctly, as it turned out, on the American people being so stupid and so gullible that they would just go along with it.
Yeah, well, I guess literally so stupid and so gullible that they would just go along for it, that we would send our sons and daughters to go fight Islam in the most sectarian nation in the Middle East, the nation that has the highest literacy rate in the Middle East, has the lowest poverty rate in the Middle East, the most doctors per capita in the Middle East, but I can't have that because he wants this gold standard and he's kind of like getting real protective of his oil. And
he's not playing ball.
And we sold them a lot of weapons in the 80s to fight Iran, and we got some receipts that we need to go, recover our yellow cake. Turns out he'd already used it elsewhere. So we never found any, but we're pretty damn sure we sold him some. Okay. Roosevelt had the receipts, but they got burnt down in Building 7 on 9/11. So we're going off memory here. How about climate change? Do you think the government would institute a big climate change fraud and get us to spend trillions of dollars and curb our habits and buy cars with special catalytic converters to lower the emissions rate? Do you think they would do that all based on a lie?
Never.
Is retracting a 2024 study predicting catastrophic economic toll of climate change. Several banks used the report to make risk management plans. Too bad they didn't hear from this take by billionaire businessman Daniel Pena back in 2017.
The best scenario vis-a-vis global warming is about 10 feet raising water. That means the southern part of the United States is gone. England is gone. Most of Europe is gone. Let's just take Florida, for example, which is one of the fastest growing beachfront condominiums on the planet. Not one single investment prospectus written since 2000, this century, has alluded to global warming. Now,
Our next guest is making the case that climate change may have actually spared America from hurricanes this year. So
we've known, you and I are like, our parents were concerned about climate change. At a certain point, it's beyond our life, right? But Pena was right in 2017 when he said they wouldn't be giving loans on waterfront condos. Now, it's getting harder to insure waterfront condos, okay? But nonetheless, you could still get a bank loan for them. The insurance might be more than the loan. Either way, though, again, another huge lie. Al-Qaeda and Saddam Hussein are tied at the hip. Let's go take them out. Maybe not. Oh, hey, climate change. We need taxation and we need, limits on driving and we need to push all kinds of green energy. Yeah, the science was bogus, but we see what you're doing with that money. That money's not going to fight climate change either. Now, they'll do that on the big stuff, right? They'll send your sons and daughters to die overseas over what? Over what again? Not really sure what we were doing in Iraq. They'll send all of your tax money and regulate to death over a bogus climate change.
Yeah, but my district makes tanks, so we got to make tanks.
War's good. Right? War's good. Okay, now they'll do it even on a personal level. You want to stand up against the government and the political regime that's in power? Even if you think they're on your side, they might come for you. Here's the representative that Donald Trump just pardoned last week.
Congressman, tell me specifically, who tried to bribe you? You mean Biden's DOJ tried to bribe you?
Yes, they did. We got all the testimony, the 302s, the sting operation. They set up a false company, false account. They took out money. We saw all this. They took out the money, and they said this money was to bribe me. They try to use this money. They talked to my DC staff,
So my understanding is he was charged for conspiracy to accept a bribe that he never accepted, but turns out the bribe was coming from the DOJ.
Whoa.
So he didn't accept the bribe, but since we offered it to you, you're going to prison.
That told them no, there was nothing there. So they actually returned the money back to the account because they couldn't bribe me. So the Biden administration, they tried to entrap me and try to bribe me, and that failed. And this is very significant because one more thing, everything came in from the DOJ in DC. Everything came from the DOC office there. The local office, that is the one in Houston, never got enough. And from my sources, they did not get involved because they felt there was not a case, and they said, we're not going to get involved. The Houston office said, we're not going to get involved. It's all the DOJ people in Washington, D.C. There's a lot more. And I have talked to Jim Jordan, and I've asked Jim Jordan, I want to sit down with y'all because I think y'all need to investigate those prosecutors, and you need to investigate their supervisors also.
Oh, yeah. Just like we should have investigated the prosecutors and the supervisors from Crossfire Hurricane that prosecuted General Flynn and Donald Trump, and the prosecutors and the investigators that went after all the conservatives in Arctic Frost and Ukraine Gate. And should we just keep going? right? They came after him, they came after the entire country of Iraq. They'll come after all your bank accounts and all your state regulations for environmental protections. I mean, what won't they do? They'll come for everything. They'll eat you alive. Literally, if you let them, they'll eat you alive, just like the Somalis have been eating Minnesota alive.
Remind us, logistically, how were these people able to pull off this?
About to read? Do it. Read it. Go back.
Okay, here I go.
Read it.
Boom. I just found this one. It looks too good.
Oh, I love it.
I was like, ooh.
Oh, you got to refresh.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, you got to do the double tap refresh. Guys, this is a good one. This is a steak. We are going to advertise steak, which is a first on this show. It's going to be awesome. But Ron needs 2 seconds to do it. Oh, you're going to have to hit refresh again. Or did it?
I don't know. Something happened.
Nobody leave. Nobody's allowed to leave. All right, let's go play this video while you key that up here. All right, back to this. Oh, nope. We're doing it. Go. Tech issues. No. Come on. Oh, too many requests. All right. Flip over here. Let's watch this. Come back to we got to read the steak ad. That's a good one. Okay, back over here. They'll rob you blind.
Remind us, logistically, how were these people able to pull off this massive fraud scheme? Was it just overbilling?
Right. It started out as overbilling. So the Child Care Center might have 60 people officially enrolled on their books and 30 would show up on a given day, but they billed as if all 60 showed up. Just straight up overbilling. Over time, it evolved into a much more brazen scheme where they would create nonprofits, go register with the Secretary of State's office, create a nonprofit, and then file to join the food program. And literally, one day they didn't exist. The next day they existed. The day after that, they were claiming to feed 5,000 children a day. Their children didn't exist. So you mentioned the spreadsheets where they just used a random name generator to make up names of non-existent children to show to the state, we really are feeding all these kids, but the kids didn't exist, the food didn't exist. So it started out as overbilling, and then it became billing for non-existent stuff. They just send invoices without bothering to buy food or actually feed kids. And that got extended into some of these other programs, like the housing stabilization thing for goods not provided. And the government, state government, was just paying the invoices, no questions asked.
Logistically, how were these people?
Billions of dollars out the door, just like
good
that.
Old-fashioned white collar crime.
We're gonna get our steak.
Oh, are we gonna?
Gotta get the steaks.
Man, I hope so. Let's see if I can find.
You gotta find the steaks. Where are they at? There you go. Look at that.
Let's try.
That looks delicious. Oh, that looks delicious.
Failed to
Why
accept.
is it doing that?
I don't know.
Oh, all right. Well, one of the other things, there's Victor Davis Hanson is someone that I just think you can keep trying.
I'll keep trying.
Victor Davis Hanson is someone who I think has excellent political takes. And I've noticed a trend. So, you can create these AI avatars. You got to be really careful. Some of my favorite pundits, Victor Davis Hanson, Elon Musk, when he makes commentary, they're doing these AI videos where they get them like making these big, long explanation videos. But when you listen to it, they use transitional phrases that only AI uses, like that are really kind of disingenuous. You have to be a little careful. Yeah. So anyways, I had to double check and make sure this one was real. So this is Victor Davis Hanson on with Scott Atlas, and he's talking about Donald Trump and how he has just overcome so much. He really is a once in a generation figure. And I think sometimes we underestimate everything Donald Trump's been through to get to where he's at. And, he's really earned the right to be kind of a no nonsense president.
I cannot think of anybody else who at one point in 2022-23 was looking at $500 million in fines, another $80 million from E. Jean Carroll. They had Stormy down. Every discrete thing about his life was out there. That Steele dossier said he was urinating on prostitutes. They were attacking him. They took his name off the ballot in 25 states. They raided his home. They debanked his wife and son, 93 felony indictments. They had impeached him twice. They tried him as a private citizen. That would have broken any other person. I mean, if it was 100%. Me, I would have been. No one could go through that. No one could go through that. What they said about him, no one. And he was a Nietzschean figure. The more they did it, the stronger he got. And he said, fight, fight, fight. And that's who he is. There's never going to be anybody like that again.
Not in our lifetimes.
Not in our lifetime.
I am certain about that.
No,
That
I'm
is
sure about
absolutely
that.
true.
And there's not anybody else who's going to say, I'm going to say whatever I want. And if you don't like it, that's your problem. But I'm going to try to tell the truth as I see the truth. And if I have to use capital letters or I have to, tweet a picture of Chris Christie is overweight, I'll do it like a kid. And it's your problem.
I love it. Like a kid, it's your problem. What Donald Trump creates, or the people that oppose him, they create, and the left does this. This is a tactic that was, really perfected in Soviet Russia. It's this noise idea. You create this constant chaos, and then when people are like, "Can you please stop the chaos?" the person causing the chaos obviously has the ability to stop the chaos. Adam Carolla describes this perfectly.
Because what they do is they create chaos, and then at some point they go, look at all the chaos. And it's like, yeah, I know. That's because you're doing that. And then they go, don't you want the chaos to end? And so what the phenomenon that's kind of interesting with Trump is like, what if I just said as an example, you and your wife, and your wife said, I'd like to go to bed at night and leave the front door open. And you go, I don't want to do that because like raccoons would come into the house, a stray dog. And they go, no, that's what I want to do. And you go, no. And then you come downstairs in the morning, the trash is all torn through because a family of raccoon walked through your living room and so on and so forth. And then you say to your wife, can we just shut the front door? Can we just shut the front door? And she goes, no. And you go, I'm shutting the front door. And you shut the front door. But she's throwing a fit every single night. And then at some point, your kids just go, just open the front door. I'm so tired of hearing her. I'm so tired of the arguing. And you go, but we shut the front door and we didn't get any raccoons. I know, but I don't want to hear this anymore. Just do it. And you go, fine, we'll do it. And so you go, oh, you open the front door. And now there's raccoons back in the house, but there's no more arguing. And at least your kids can go in the room and shut the door and go to bed, And so it's in a way, it's like being blackmailed, right? So you go, I don't want the front door. And I go, yeah, but don't you just want peace? Don't you just want some peace in your home? And you go, okay. And that's sort of what they do. They go out and they fight everything. It could be ICE. It could be a ballroom. It could be anything to do with the border. It could be any transgender. They just fight everything. And then at some point they go, aren't you tired of the chaos? Don't you just want some peace? Don't you want to just get back to normal? Don't you just want to get some middle of the road, somebody, just put our guy in there, open the front door, no more arguments, and we can get on with our life. Wouldn't that be nice? And I'm like, it would be nice, but there's an alternative one, which is you shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, just let ICE do their job. Let the border patrol do their job. How about you just sit back and let everyone do their job for 10 minutes? Let them add a ballroom onto the East Wing. How about that? Because that's the other alternative. I'm going to shut the front door. You shut the fuck up, and we'll get on with our life with no raccoon. We can do that, but you won't let that happen.
We just want a country with no raccoons. That's all we're asking for. Yeah, but if the climate and the drugs and the ballroom and the picadillos, you know what I mean? Now, James Carville, who, oftentimes it's like, this guy's brilliant. Are we ready to go here? We get
it's not
failed campaign.
Do it.
Oftentimes James Carville has good hot takes, but this one is kind of hilarious. It's two different worlds we're living in here, right? For us and kind of our peer group, we see Donald Trump as a net positive. He's doing a lot of good things. Yeah, he's breaking the system. Yeah, are people happy about their SNAP benefits? Do we have a cousin here or there that's getting sucked into the SNAP cut down? Yeah, I mean, the system's bloated. We've got to trim the fat to see if we can even save this thing. People don't realize how bad it is. Guys are financing this month's apartment rent over 4 years. And you think that's not going to compound when they have to, delay their paying their apartment rent year after, 5 years? What's the limit here? You're going to be 20 years on 5 years of apartment payments?
And people realize that our government finances its debt too.
Yeah, it's bad. These are bad news bears. So here's James Carville. He's like, hey, I think Trump finally, after everything that's been thrown at him, he's got to know it's almost over.
The more the walls closing in on him, the more dangerous that he gets. Right. And they're closing in on him I can't tell you how fast they're closing in on him.
No.
And he knows that. And, you know, I don't want anybody to get sick, but I assume that he's aware of the fact that he probably has some pretty significant health issues. He's certainly aware of the fact that he has really, really significant downside political standing right now. He can't.
He's not talking about Joe Biden, if anybody's confused.
He's got to realize at some point that he's appointed a pack of buffoons that can't do anything, but he's a big enough buffoon that he may not realize it. But I am just worried sick about the next 3 years. And I think your point, because he's not going to get better.
He's not going to get better. It's going to be more chaos. We're going to make sure of it. People are going to be begging for us to come back into power. Steve Bannon gets it. Trump loses, Bannon goes back to prison. Okay, it's that simple. Yeah. And you know, some of us who've been to prison during the last regime, it's a concern. It's a concern. What are they going to? I mean, they're not above taking out a loan to pay a bribe, and then if you don't take the bribe, they'll still convict you because they were trying to offer you one. You know what I mean? Like, you took the meeting to tell us no. That's a conspiracy to take a bribe. Yeah, but I told you no. But you agreed to take the meeting. Well, how did I know you weren't just a normal political donor? You didn't. We won. The truth is on our side.
Because the facts are on our side. Joe Biden never got 15 million votes, more votes than Barack Obama. Impossible. We didn't pick up net 12 House seats when we lost the presidential. Impossible. We didn't win 19 of the 20 bellwethers and lose the presidency. Impossible. You generated phony ballots of folks that don't exist, and that's why you ripped those envelopes and got them. If not, Rachel Maddow will be rubbing our nose and look at this thing, double it in the envelope. She's there. That's her signature. She's right there. Boom, right there. No, in the dark of night, you did this. This is why Trump had to stand up at 11 o'clock at night and say, hey, guess what? I'm up 800,000 in Philadelphia, and we're now going to take down that fence. You ain't blocking us out because you're not going to do some count. Remember, the president came out because he was tapped along and by a lot of his staff and a lot of his legal people who just wanted to get the hell out of there, and said, oh, yeah, everybody's going to stop counting. We're all going to stop counting. We're going to go home and get some sleep. You get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Hey, they continue to count everywhere. And guess what? You're now losing because they got to count it in the dark of night.
What I think happened in 2024 is I think they had all their fake ballots, because you still had fake ballots going in Pennsylvania and all Michigan. But I think that killing the Dominion machines, they didn't know how many ballots to print. It's the same problem they had in 2020. They had to backload the ballots to match the machine to superficially pass audits, right? And I think this is another one of those ones where they just didn't print enough ballots. They didn't know what the margins were going to be. I mean, how high up do we have to run the score here? They could produce millions of ballots after the fact, but you couldn't produce them before the fact. You know what I mean? You needed the votes to register. You needed those machines to tell you how many ballots you needed to feed into the system. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were more sophisticated. Last time, these were flat out Biden dumps. These might have been huge batches of ballots, 1/3, 2/3 or something. You know what I mean? Like, it could have been really bad. Donald Trump is pretty much a master at foreign. You know, someone I care about this weekend said, you know, I'm a little disappointed in Trump's been focusing on foreign stuff and not domestic stuff. I'm like, dude,
jeez.
First of all, I believe he's been focused on both equally.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, you don't understand. If you can't, a lot of our domestic problems are because of our foreign problems. You know, that whole free trade nightmare causing domestic problems. You can't fix the job market unless you can fix the quote unquote free trade problem that we have, right? You can't fix the housing market unless you can quote unquote get some of these countries to accept some of these immigrants back or these illegals back. I mean, there's like,
it's upsetting our markets for sure.
So one of these things is, you know, trying to bring peace to the Middle East, and Israel's always been kind of a thorn. They're our ally. The other Middle Eastern countries are or are not. Well, obviously during the whole Palestinian-Iran conflict, and then Israel goes out and strikes Qatar and the whole thing. Well, Tucker Carlson was interviewing one of these representatives from Qatar. He's over there this weekend, I think. And they shared a very insightful thing about Donald Trump. And one of the things he did to advance the peace along kind of putting Israel in check, and for the first time in living memory, forcing Israel to apologize to the Arab world.
President Trump basically told the Israelis to apologize to you. He took your side against Israel in this specific case. I don't think I've ever seen that before. I don't think it's ever happened before. What was your reaction to that?
President Trump was very clear from the beginning since the attack. When he was informed about the attack, he assigned one of his advisors to reach out to us. At the same time, he called His Highness after the attack and he expressed his frustration, his disappointment from such a thing that's happening by Israel. You know, this kind of move was shocking for him.
It was his peace process that was short-circuited by their bombing using American money. You're saying that the president didn't know that was going to happen. He was surprised.
He called us right away. His advisors reached out to us a couple of minutes before the attack, which was like the attack was already happening. It was a very clear demonstration with all the actions that this is something happened against his will and he doesn't accept it.
It's surprising. It's surprising how big a deal that is. The Biden administration and even the Obama administration would have taken days. They would have probably backed Israel and pretended like they approved the strike, or you know what I mean? But instead, Trump just like, no way. In fact, it set precedent for Trump because now Trump's like, yeah, you can buy our bombs, but we're not backing you in any way. Like you're on your own how you use them. Whereas the supposition before would be if you're selling bombs to some country and they use them, that you're warranting those bombs. That was really the idea here. And Trump is turning that on its head, where he's like, no, Israel's responsible for its own actions. And I imagine other countries that take military action using our weaponry, the same response will be had. This is Donald Trump talking about chip manufacturing and bringing chip manufacturing to the U.S. And he's forecasting, there's trouble brewing in Taiwan. And best not to let that key industry, chip manufacturing, be exclusively a Taiwanese product.
Going to go on for a long time. And he better not be right about that. That's all I'm saying.
This project, could this minimize the impact to the U.S. with chips should China decide to isolate Taiwan or China decide to take Taiwan?
Well, it's a very interesting point. It's a great question, actually. But this would certainly, I can't say minimize. That would be a catastrophic event, obviously, but it will at least give us a position where we have, in this very, very important business, we would have a very big part of it in the United States. So it would have a big impact if something should happen with Taiwan.
It's kind of a scary prospect, but you have to prepare for it. Taiwan being the linchpin for microchip, semiconductor processing. The idea has been if you leave Taiwan in place, it gives the United States incentive to fight for Taiwan, which puts us on a trajectory. We will be engaging with China at some point over that, because not only do they want the island for nationalistic purposes, but they also want the chip manufacturing. And we want the chip manufacturing too. So we're defending the island, right? It's a very sticky little spot.
It's why there's always kind of weird things happening in the South China Sea between boats and...
Oh my goodness. In fact, China, I didn't include any of this. I should have, because you have, you like the water, I think. But China's been pushing on the Philippines, like sending thousands of fishing boats to go fish right on the line where they're allowed to fish.
Right on the 3-mile line.
Running into Filipino boats.
Oh boy.
They're doing the same thing in the Sea of Japan. They're doing the same thing in Korea. And they're even doing the same thing off the coast of Peru. We're talking thousands of boats all in one spot, kind of like a show of force.
So they're fishing them out.
They're fishing them out, but also it's more than any of our navies can handle. Right. When you deploy the fishing fleet and they've all got a 50 cal mounted on the front, it's a problem. You know what I mean? It's a problem. And so that's one of the things Pete Hegseth was talking about. He's like, China could take out our entire naval fleet in 20 minutes with their hypersonic missiles. We have no defense for that as far as the battleships and stuff are concerned. So he's like, the future is going to be small craft and lots of them, which China's figured out by enlisting all their fishermen as part of their, everything in their government can be weaponized.
So that's my butter knife strategy.
Kill us with butter knives?
Yeah.
Basically. Which plays into the whole narrative we have in the United States about trying to kill these narco-terrorists. It's like, well, it's just a little boat. It would be really easy to take out if it was a big old steam-powered vessel.
What do you think those boats were built for? Do they look like Donzas, or are they like ski boats? What do you think that they made those boats for, people?
Exactly. Anybody who supports the illegal immigration for any cause even if it's for, well, we want to allow the economic opportunity and we really need these fruit pickers, you're supporting inadvertently, whether you want to or not, some of the most horrendous things humanity has to offer. Things like child trafficking. Tom Holman and ICE and Border Patrol and the Marshals have been on an absolute tear to try to recover the nearly 500,000 children that went missing under the Biden administration.
And we have politicians that will stand around and defend it like it's some kind of a holy thing that we have to let these people into our country.
It really brings into question the whole deep QAnon stuff. Like, what are they doing with these kids? Well, it turns out sex and labor trafficking for the most part.
I look at the numbers every day. On Friday, I looked at the numbers. There's over 62,000 children found by the Trump administration. Children that weren't even being looked for under the Biden administration. President Trump saved over 62,000 children's lives. Some of these children were in sex trafficking, we found them. Some were in forced labor. Some were being mistreated. I can't even discuss some of the mistreatment we found out about. President Trump, again, proves why he's the greatest president in my lifetime. Over 62,000 children rescued by President Trump. Again, children that were ignored and weren't being looked for under President Biden.
62,000 kids, which is a lot of kids. I mean, you think about the size, that's all of North Kitsap. Housing, care, foster care, this is a lot of kids. And they're not even, they're what, 10% through the list? 12% through the list of kids they're looking for? It's amazing that they're going after this. Again, anybody who supports the narco-terrorists, the cartels, the drug dealing of all kinds, it's not just fentanyl, it's all the drugs that come in. It's supporting this industry that ultimately ends up pairing with human trafficking. And a lot of kids that end up in horrible spots, right? Horrible spots. Eric Schmidt, senator from Missouri, was on the news this weekend. And, he was kind of combated some of these talking points. You guys are using these empathy talking points, but you're missing the big picture.
In the Senate. And Senator, let me just begin where we left off with Congressman Smith. Do you support this pardon of the former Honduran president?
I'm not familiar with the facts or circumstances, but I think what's telling here is to try to imply that somehow President Trump is soft on drug smuggling is just ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. He's provided border security like we've never seen before. And the fact is, these cartels now, because the southern border is closed, they've gone to the high seas. So President Trump is acting with his core Article 2 powers. No serious legal expert would doubt that the president has authority to blow narco-terrorists out of the water who are poisoning 100,000 Americans every year. If you watch the SEC championship game yesterday, the Big Ten championship game, combine those two stadiums with the number of people there, that's how many people are dying each and every year from the poison that's coming from these narco-terrorists. So the fact is, George, President Trump has been delegated the authority by Congress to designate terrorist organizations. He's done that. He sent a letter to Congress saying he was going to initiate these strikes. We've had regular briefings about it, including from Secretary of State Rubio, including from the high-ranking officials in the Department of Defense. He's executing those. And so now what we have now are Democrats who have such X-ray vision and clairvoyance that they know the intentions of narco-terrorists on boats, yet we're so blind to see that they had a president for 4 years that was operating as a vegetable in Joe Biden. So, forgive me if I'm a little skeptical that this isn't all about politics and trying to take out Secretary Hegseth. That's what this whole thing's been about, George. They didn't want him confirmed. They didn't want a realist in place. They didn't want to shift from their pet projects around the world and trying to build democracies in the sands of the Middle East by the barrel of a gun. We have core national interests at stake, the homeland in the Western Hemisphere, and the rise of China. That's what this administration is focused on. The Democrats are just upset about that, and they try to create some controversy each and every week, and it goes nowhere.
What do you mean you're not familiar with the facts and circumstances of the pardon? It's been well reported all across the country. He's the former president of Honduras. He was convicted of conspiring to bring in 400 tons of cocaine into the United States, also guns and other materials. It's been front page news across the country. Aren't you curious about that?
Well, I'm curious about your pushback on that particular point. With your previous guest, you had zero pushback because he's giving the Democrat talking points like you spew every single week, which is probably why your ratings are so bad. But to make the point, what I'm saying is that you're trying to divert here the attention from what the American people actually support. 75% of Americans support us blowing narco terrorists out of the water in the
Senate.
What happened to your voice?
I hit the mute thing here. We're going to talk about that 75% support here in just a minute.
Okay. Let's. Jeez, it fails. Let me try a different one. I'm just going to try. I'm trying to do an ad here, folks. If I can find one that will light up. Boom. Let's try this one. Yes. Okay. Ready to level up your game? Aim controllers is where custom meets unbeatable value. And right now, it's the best deal of the year. We start with official Sony and Xbox controllers, fully compatible with console and PC. No functionality lost. Then you go wild with custom features, smart bumpers, paddles, grips, stick height, custom buttons, even design your own PS5 snap panels. And here's the part no one else is doing. Lifetime warranty on all modified parts. That's right, lifetime. What other company does that? Exactly. Normally, a fully loaded setup could run you $400, but during our one price promo, it's just $209 USD or 182 euro, no matter how many features you add. Use code RUMBLE at checkout and lock it in. This is your sign. Go to aimcontrollers.com and build your last controller you'll ever need. Boom. Oh, you're still muted.
You got that advertised in euros?
Yes.
That's awesome. Hey, we do have some European listeners. So Eric Schmidt right there, he's like, look, this is a huge issue. Anybody who's like opposing this, going after the drug cartels for the sake of the drug cartels, you got to check yourself, which makes you think, what's behind this? Now, this weekend, some reporting came out, who's really been opposed to these drug cartels, blowing them up?
I don't know.
Rand Paul. Shockingly, right? He's been, huge opposition. How do we know these aren't citizens? How do we know they're not, shouldn't be prisoners of war? Why can't we just interdict these boats? Like, he's been really shocking. Well, it turns out he might be taking some money. Now, the sourcing wasn't great, so I'm going to wait for better sourcing to come out. But again, it explains a lot, because the reality is out here amongst us peasants, this is the reality of drugs.
I'm going to go ahead and apologize before I even get to the end of this freaking video. But I'll tell you right now, I am so pissed off at this point to where I'm ready to put my hand through a wall. I posted a video yesterday about the DOJ taking out the rug boats. We all heard about it. They've been called MUR, DER, whatever you want to call them. I call them goddamn heroes. It's taken 6 family members from me. Well, this morning I go out to check my mail. I'm barefooted, got my damn night shirt on, run out there to check my mail. Next thing I know, I hear my neighbor screaming at the top of her lungs. And she's an elderly woman. Yes, I'm elderly, but she's older than me. So here I go, running across the street to find out what's wrong. All I could get out of her was, he's dead. He's dead. So I walk in the house and I find her 40-year-old nephew passed away on the couch. This is not the first person to OD in her house. This is the third. I live in an average working class American neighborhood. I don't live in the goddamn hood. My street is 3 blocks long. I've had 9 people, not counting that 40-year-old across the street. That makes 10 to OD on this street in the last 15 years.
It's worse than war. That's worse than we saw our sons and daughters die in World War II. It's worse than we saw them die in Vietnam. It's worse than we've seen them die in all of our conflicts.
They didn't even have to go anywhere.
On that street alone, which is only 3 blocks long. And she's not in the hood.
Right.
So, beware of anybody who's telling you that taking out the narco-terrorists is bad. Beware. Beware of anybody who tries to defend the indefensible. Things like, the vaccines. If you have a kid that's affected, that's vaccine injured, can we have some reality? Can we have a doctor look at this? Can we have people take a look at this? But the truth is, the leader of the opposing political party, the Democrats at large, Barack Obama, right? He's not leader he's leader in the movement for sure. A lot of people still think he's Black Jesus, which, by the way, Dominion may have helped in his first primary in the Iowa caucuses, just saying, right? But he thinks that, telling the truth is violence.
So we had the spectacle of my successor in the Oval Office making broad claims around certain drugs and autism that have been continuously disproved.
Have they? Have they?
Have they ever?
And the degree to which that undermines public health, the degree to which that can do harm to women who are pregnant, the degree to which that creates anxiety for
You're
parents
lying,
who
sir.
do
And that
have
undermines public health.
Yeah.
children who are autistic, which, by the way, itself is subject to a spectrum, and a lot of what is being trumpeted as these massive increases actually have to do with a broadening of the criteria across that spectrum so that people can actually get services and help, not to...
Sounds like fraud to me.
It's all of that is violence against the truth.
Violence against the truth. Violence against the truth. That's what we're dealing here with. This guy here, I can't remember his name. He's kind of a CIA expert. He talks about how to know you're being lied to, how to know you're in a psyop, how to know the people that you're talking to are giving you a half truth or might have an allegiance that's different than yours. Okay. And he's being asked specifically about Mockingbird Media. How do you know that the media members are lying, or podcasters nowadays? That's the big thing. A lot of podcasters are bought off. It's just the reality of it. You know, he talks about this too, how it is exactly they get a podcaster to be bought. They're like, you can say whatever you want, but when it comes to this topic, or this topic, this is your narrative. This is what you're going to do. But they do it real cloak and dagger, because one of the things they'll do is they'll accept the criticism of the XYZ government agency, but then they'll insert but the benefits of having them outweigh the costs, right?
That a lot of the main anchors at the big media companies were CIA operatives. Do you think that's happening today?
Yes.
Did you think I was a CIA operative?
No.
What are the signs?
When somebody is asked a difficult question about their government, their agency that they might be working for, they might answer it in a negative way, but then they'll say, yes, but. I think that allegiance mandates some kind of PR maintenance. And it doesn't make me say, oh yeah, 100% that guy is an agent or whatever. But it does make me say, that's interesting. Like that person got asked about something that happened in the 1950s with the CIA. And they said, like, yes, they did that back then. However, nowadays, their new focus is this and this and this. They'll throw a little commercial on top of the admission of the negative thing that happened.
Commercial cover.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we create all these bioviruses and they could be really risky, but I mean, infant mortality, childhood health, anxiety of the mothers, not knowing if they should or shouldn't vaccinate.
That helps us develop all these vaccines.
That's all violence. We don't want violence. I mean, I know that the CIA has perpetrated violence, and I know the pharmaceutical industry is responsible for more mass casualty events than anything else. But, I mean,
code for death.
Yeah. I mean, we know that your kids get autism, but isn't it nice to just give them a pill to break the fever? Tylenol. All right, guys, it's time to jump over to private. We're going to be hearing from Jasmine Crockett, one of the most crazy screeds I've ever heard. We're going to be hearing from Tammy Duckworth a little bit more on, actually, we might skip Tammy Duckworth. We're also going to be hearing from Representative Kohler, who just got pardoned by Trump. We're going to be hearing from him again. And then we're going to be hearing from Elon Musk, who basically tells advertisers, go F yourselves. Wow. Advertisers might be the downfall of a lot of our industries. And then we're also going to be hearing about the court-martialing of the seditious six. So we got a pretty robust private today on Rumble Premium. So join the Unoffendables over there, and we'll talk to the rest of you guys.